Chapter 2, Morning Connections and Growing Bonds. Taylor stirred awake, her mind groggy and slow. She blinked at the faint morning light filtering through the blinds, a hazy warmth cocooning her. Fragments of the previous night played in her mind like a half-remembered dream. The championship after-party, Elijah walking her home, the late-night snacks, it all felt surreal. Stretching slightly, she noticed her clothes, still the same ones from the night before, slightly wrinkled from sleep. She froze, her eyes widening. Oh no, that wasn't a dream. She sat up, her messy blonde hair falling over her face as she scanned the room. The faint sound of movement and the distinct smell of something delicious drifted from the kitchen. Quietly, she tiptoed toward the door, peeking around the corner. There he was. Elijah. Still here, very real, and casually standing in her tiny kitchen. He wore the same calm expression she remembered, his focus entirely on the stove as he worked. Taylor's heart raced. He's still here. Oh my God, he's still here. She instinctively ducked back behind the wall, her cheeks heating with embarrassment. I look like a mess. Are you planning to hide there all morning, or should I come find you? Elijah's calm voice carried over, tinged with amusement. Taylor froze, then slowly peeked out, her expression sheepish. Hi, she mumbled, her voice small. Elijah turned to look at her, an easy smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Hi, he replied, his tone light and teasing. You okay over there, or is this some new morning exercise routine? Taylor hesitated before stepping fully into the room, awkwardly tugging at the hem of her shirt. I'm fine. Just, wasn't expecting you to still be here. Or, cooking. He chuckled, turning back to the stove. Well, I figured you might like pancakes. You seemed pretty fond of chocolate last night, so I thought I'd surprise you. Taylor tilted her head, confused. Wait. I don't even have pancake ingredients. I know, Elijah said, shrugging casually. I went to the store this morning. Figured it'd be fun to make breakfast. Her heart melted a little at his thoughtfulness. He went to the store? For this? Slowly, she edged closer, trying to sneak a peek at what he was doing. No cheating, Elijah said without looking up, his smirk audible. Taylor huffed, crossing her arms. Fine. Can I at least take a quick shower? He glanced over his shoulder, pretending to consider it before nodding. You've got time. But don't take too long, or I'm eating all the pancakes. She laughed, her nerves easing, and quickly made her way to the bathroom. The sound of running water filled the apartment as Elijah continued working in the kitchen. The smell of sizzling batter and warm chocolate filled the air, mingling with the soft hum of the city outside. By the time Taylor returned, he was finishing up the final plate. Elijah, his words caught in his throat as he turned to see her. Taylor stood in the doorway, her blonde hair brushed to perfection, framing her face like a halo. Her makeup was subtle but masterfully done, bringing out her natural beauty. She had even swapped out her wrinkled clothes for something casual but flattering, a fresh energy radiating from her. For a moment, Elijah just stared, caught off guard. Should I sit? Taylor asked, her cheeks tinged with pink. Elijah blinked, quickly pulling out a chair for her. Yeah, of course. Sit. She giggled softly, sitting down as he set a plate of pancakes in front of her, a perfectly arranged stack topped with butter, banana slices, drizzles of chocolate, and maple syrup. Her eyes lit up. Wow. This looks incredible. You made this for me? He shrugged modestly, sitting down across from her with his own plate of toast and eggs. Figured you deserved something special. Taylor grinned, cutting into the pancakes. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Elijah smiled, watching her enjoy the meal. But wait, she said, pointing her fork at his plate. No pancakes? You don't like sweets? Not much of a sweets guy, he admitted, taking a bite of his toast. More for me, then, she teased, her smile growing as she took another bite. The morning unfolded with quiet warmth. Over breakfast, the two talked and laughed, learning more about each other. For Taylor, it was the start of something new, something exciting and unexpected. For Elijah, it was a rare, peaceful moment, unburdened by the weight of his life outside these walls. In that little kitchen, between pancakes and shared smiles, something special began to bloom. As Taylor finished her last bite of pancakes, she leaned back in her chair, letting out a contented sigh. Okay, I think you've officially ruined breakfast for me forever. Nothing will ever compare to this. Elijah smirked, collecting their empty plates. I'll take that as a compliment. It is, she said, her tone playful but sincere. As he turned to place the dishes in the sink, her eyes wandered to the corner of the room where her guitar rested against the wall. She suddenly felt a little self-conscious and started fiddling with a napkin. Elijah noticed the direction of her gaze and raised an eyebrow. You play? Taylor blinked, her cheeks flushing. Oh, a little. I mean, it's just a hobby. I'm not, like, good or anything. He tilted his head, an amused smile tugging at his lips. You say that, but I don't believe you. She let out a nervous laugh, shaking her head. No, seriously. I just mess around with it when I have time. It's nothing special. Elijah wiped his hands on a dish towel and leaned casually against the counter. Why don't you show me? Taylor's eyes widened. Oh, no. No. She waved her hands as if to erase the suggestion from the air. Come on, Elijah said, his voice calm but encouraging. I bet you're better than you think. Besides, I could use some post-pancake entertainment. Taylor hesitated, glancing at the guitar like it was a secret she wasn't quite ready to share. But the way Elijah looked at her, steady, patient, and genuinely curious, made her feel a little braver. Okay, she relented, standing up and walking over to the guitar. But don't say I didn't warn you. She picked it up and sat back down, adjusting the strap and strumming a few chords to warm up. Her fingers stumbled slightly at first, but soon, a soft melody began to fill the room. Elijah didn't say a word, his attention entirely on her. Taylor hesitated before starting to sing, her voice low and uncertain at first. I've been chasing dreams I'm not sure I can reach, but maybe it's not the stars, maybe it's the journey that's in my heart. As the lyrics unfolded, her voice grew steadier, more confident. The simple tune carried a raw honesty that caught Elijah off guard. When she finished, Taylor quickly set the guitar down, her face bright red. That was terrible, wasn't it? No, Elijah said, his voice soft but firm. That was incredible. She blinked, taken aback. You're just saying that. I'm not, he replied, leaning forward slightly. You have real talent, Taylor. Don't sell yourself short. Her lips curved into a small, shy smile. You really think so? I know so, Elijah said with certainty. Taylor's confidence swelled, and she let out a light laugh to ease the moment. Well, I guess I owe you breakfast now. Isn't that how this works? Elijah chuckled. Deal. But it better be as good as mine. The two laughed, the earlier nervousness between them replaced by a growing sense of ease. For Taylor, sharing her music felt like peeling back a layer of herself, and Elijah's genuine support made her feel seen in a way she hadn't expected. For Elijah, it was another reminder of how refreshing Taylor's presence was, uncomplicated and full of warmth. The morning stretched on, the two exchanging stories and jokes, the connection between them growing stronger with every passing moment. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting a warm glow through the windows as Taylor stretched with a satisfied yawn. Elijah stood by the door, slipping on his jacket. "Done with breakfast?" he asked casually, his tone light. Taylor nodded, brushing her hands over her outfit to smooth any wrinkles. "Completely stuffed. I'll probably need a week to recover." Elijah smirked. "Perfect. Let's walk it off." Taylor blinked. "Walk?" "Yeah," Elijah said, opening the door slightly. "It's a nice day. Let's go see the city. You've been cooped up all morning." She hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "Okay. Why not?" The streets of Melbourne were alive with activity, bustling with the energy of late morning. Cafes buzzed with conversation, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods wafting through the air. Taylor and Elijah strolled side by side, their steps leisurely as they soaked in the atmosphere. Taylor gestured toward a colorful mural painted on the side of a nearby building. "That's new. I don't think it was here the last time I came this way." Elijah glanced at it, nodding. "It's nice. Brightens the place up." As they passed a shop window with TVs on display, a familiar image caught Elijah's eye. On the screen, a sports commentator spoke animatedly beside footage of a recent NeoBlade match. A bold headline scrolled beneath, "Melbourne Nexus announces departure of the Kraken." Elijah paused for a split second, his face unreadable, before continuing his stride. They didn't waste any time, he thought to himself. Of course they didn't. It's all about money with them. This is just another way to capitalize. Taylor, noticing his brief hesitation, turned to look at the TVs. Her blue eyes widened as she processed the headline. "Wait, isn't that you?" she asked, tilting her head, her tone equal parts curious and oblivious. Elijah chuckled softly, amused by her naivety. "I don't know." "Is it?" Taylor huffed, narrowing her eyes as she lightly punched his arm. "Don't bully me, okay? I'm being serious." He laughed, holding up his hands in mock surrender. All right. Yes, it's me." Her expression shifted to one of concern. "Did you quit? When? Why?" Elijah's smile faded slightly, though his tone remained steady. "It's a long story," he said, glancing ahead. "But it's not a problem, so don't worry." Taylor studied him for a moment, her brows knitting together. Though his voice was calm, there was a flicker of something else beneath it, a mix of sincerity and a faint shadow of pain. She could tell he wasn't just brushing her off, he genuinely wanted her to feel at ease. Deciding to trust him, Taylor softened her gaze and nodded. "Okay. I won't pry. But, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." Elijah glanced at her, his lips curving into a faint smile. "I appreciate that." The moment passed, and the two continued their walk, eventually pausing at a small cafe. Elijah held the door open for Taylor, and they stepped inside, greeted by the soft hum of conversation and the hiss of an espresso machine. Taylor ordered a caramel latte while Elijah opted for a plain black coffee. They found a small table near the window, the sunlight casting a warm glow over their drinks. As they sipped their coffee, Taylor began to open up. "So, my family's back in Central Coast. My sister, Kyla, she's NeoBlade obsessed. Like, posters on the wall, memorizing stats, dreaming of going pro-obsessed." Elijah raised an eyebrow, his lips curving into a faint smile. "Sounds like she's serious about it." "Oh, she is," Taylor said with a laugh. "And she's good. Really good. I honestly think she could make it one day. Our dad's super into it too. They bond over it." "And you?" Elijah asked, his tone curious but gentle. Taylor shook her head, smiling softly. "Not really my thing. I mean, I think it's cool, but I've always been more into music. Singing, writing songs, it's my dream. That's why I'm here in Melbourne, trying to make it happen. Elijah nodded, taking a slow sip of his coffee. That's brave. Not everyone chases their dreams. Taylor chuckled, stirring her latte with a small spoon. I don't know about brave. More like stubborn. But it's scary sometimes. You wonder if you're good enough, or if it's even worth it. Elijah's gaze softened. It's worth it. Her eyes flicked to him, surprised by the conviction in his voice. You think so? He nodded. If it makes you happy, then it's worth it. Taylor smiled, warmth spreading in her chest. You're a lot deeper than you let on, you know that? Elijah shrugged, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Maybe. As they left the cafe and continued their walk, Taylor decided to shift the focus. What about you? You've been all mysterious and vague this whole time. What's your story? Elijah glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Not much to tell. Oh, come on, Taylor teased, nudging his arm lightly. You have to give me something. Childhood hobbies? Weird quirks? A secret love of knitting? He chuckled. No knitting. Just, grew up loving sports. Liked the challenge of it. Everything else is pretty boring. Boring? Taylor raised an eyebrow. I don't believe that for a second. But fine, keep your secrets for now. I'll crack your shell eventually. Elijah shook his head, amused. Good luck with that. They reached a park, the greenery a stark contrast to the urban sprawl surrounding it. They sat on a bench, watching kids chase each other across the grass and couples stroll hand in hand along the paths. The conversation grew lighter, filled with jokes and shared stories. Taylor felt herself relaxing more and more, her laughter coming easily. Elijah, for all his quiet reserve, had a way of making her feel safe, like she could be herself without any judgment. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the city in golden hues, Taylor glanced at Elijah. Thanks for today. I didn't realize how much I needed this. Elijah met her gaze, his expression soft. Me too. The moment lingered, unspoken yet understood, as the sounds of the city swirled around them. For Taylor, it felt like the beginning of something she couldn't quite name. For Elijah, it was a rare pause in the chaos of his life, one he was starting to value more than he expected. The sun had begun to dip below the skyline as Taylor unlocked the door to her apartment, stepping inside with Elijah close behind. The warmth of the day lingered in the air, and the familiar scent of vanilla from her candles greeted them. Home sweet home, Taylor said with a small flourish, tossing her keys onto the counter. Elijah glanced around the cozy space, his eyes catching on a chair near the kitchen table that wobbled slightly as she passed. Your chair's about to give up on you, he remarked, tilting his head toward it. Taylor turned to look at it, shrugging. Yeah, it's been like that forever. I keep forgetting to fix it. Without a word, Elijah crossed the room and crouched down to inspect it. Taylor blinked, surprised. Wait, you don't have to. It's fine, he interrupted, grabbing the chair and testing the loose leg. Got a screwdriver? Taylor hesitated, then grinned. Yeah. Toolbox under the sink. Don't ask why it's there. Elijah smirked but said nothing, retrieving the toolbox and quickly getting to work. Taylor watched him for a moment, leaning against the counter. You know, you really don't have to do this. You're not exactly my handyman. He glanced up briefly, his expression calm. I don't mind. A few minutes later, the chair was steady again. Elijah gave it a final test before standing and brushing his hands on his jeans. That should do it. No more wobbles. Taylor clapped her hands together in mock celebration. Wow, I should keep you around. You could fix all my daily disasters. Elijah chuckled, his lips quirking into a small smile. I'll send you my rates. She laughed, shaking her head as she moved to the fridge. Pulling out 2 bottles of sparkling water, she handed one to him. Thanks, though. Seriously. I keep saying I'll get to things, but I never do. Elijah took the bottle, twisting off the cap with ease. Guess I was in the right place at the right time. Taylor took a sip of her drink, watching him thoughtfully. You're really dependable, you know? Like, quietly dependable. It's nice. Elijah raised an eyebrow, leaning against the counter. Quietly dependable, huh? I'll take it. The playful mood lingered for a moment before fading as Elijah's gaze shifted toward the window. The city lights were beginning to twinkle against the dimming sky, and his expression grew more subdued. Taylor caught the change and tilted her head. What's on your mind? He hesitated, then shrugged lightly. Just thinking. Not sure where life's taking me next. Her brow furrowed slightly, concern flickering across her face. You mean, after everything with Nexus? Elijah gave a small nod but didn't elaborate. Yeah. Something like that. Taylor studied him for a moment, sensing the weight behind his words. She didn't press, though. Instead, she offered a small smile. Well, wherever it takes you, I'm sure you'll figure it out. You seem like the type to land on your feet. Elijah's lips curved into a faint smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Thanks. That means a lot. Deciding to lighten the mood, Taylor gestured toward the newly fixed chair. At least you've got a backup career as a handyman if you ever need one. Elijah chuckled, the tension in the air easing slightly. Good to know. They spent the next few moments in companionable silence, sipping their drinks and letting the quiet of the apartment settle around them. Taylor felt a growing sense of ease with Elijah, his presence was steady, grounding. For a man with so much mystery surrounding him, he had a way of making her feel safe. As the night continued, Taylor couldn't help but wonder how long this moment would last. For now, though, she chose to let it be, grateful for the calm they shared. Elijah, too, felt a rare sense of peace. In a life dominated by expectations and the chaos of NeoBlade, this small apartment and the woman within it were an oasis he hadn't known he needed. The evening had settled softly over Melbourne, the hum of the city outside filling the spaces between their conversations. After finishing their drinks and sharing a few more laughs, Elijah glanced at his watch, the realization settling in. I should get going, he said, breaking the comfortable silence that had fallen between them. Taylor blinked, startled by the sudden shift. Oh, right. She tried to mask her disappointment with a bright smile. Yeah, of course. You probably have stuff to do. Elijah chuckled softly at her awkward attempt to sound casual. Not exactly. But I've been here long enough. Don't want you thinking I'm moving in. Taylor laughed, her bubbly demeanor returning as she walked him to the door. I mean, you did fix my chair. That's pretty much a down payment on rent. He smirked, grabbing his jacket. Guess I'll have to come back and fix something else soon. You'd better, she quipped, leaning against the doorframe. For a moment, neither spoke. The comfortable banter gave way to a quiet warmth as their gazes met. Taylor's mind raced, her heart beating just a little faster as she searched for the right words. Thanks for today, she said finally. For everything. Elijah nodded, his tone soft. Thank you. For letting me stay, and for the pancakes. Taylor grinned. Hey, you made those. True, he admitted, stepping into the hallway. He turned back one last time. Good night, Taylor. "Good night, Elijah," she replied, her voice light but sincere. As the door closed behind him, Taylor leaned back against it, exhaling deeply. The quiet of the apartment suddenly felt vast, yet her thoughts were anything but empty. Taylor retreated to her room, the faint scent of vanilla and the soft glow of her bedside lamp creating a cocoon of comfort. Sitting cross-legged on her bed, she stared at her guitar in the corner, her mind replaying the day. How had it happened so quickly? One day, she was singing at a party, barely noticed by anyone, and now here she was, sharing pancakes in moments of her life with someone as enigmatic as Elijah. Her thoughts were a swirl of giddiness and confusion. Was this something real? Or just a fleeting connection born out of a chance meeting? Taylor shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. Whatever it was, it felt special, like a piece of her life she didn't want to let go of. Elijah walked down the quiet street, his hands tucked into his pockets. The crisp night air was a welcome contrast to the warmth of Taylor's apartment. As he reached his car, he paused for a moment, glancing back toward the building. Driving home through the city, he found his thoughts lingering on the day. It wasn't the championship win or the chaos of the Nexus fallout that stuck with him, it was Taylor. Her laughter, her sincerity, and the way she talked about her sister with such warmth. Back at his house, Elijah settled into a chair by the window, staring out at the city lights. His house was larger and emptier than Taylor's cozy apartment, a stark reminder of the life he'd built through NeoBlade. Yet tonight, that life felt strangely far away. The simplicity of the day had been a rare gift, no press conferences, no expectations, just quiet connection. For someone used to the fast-paced, high-pressure world of NeoBlade, it was refreshing in a way he hadn't expected. He leaned back, a faint smile crossing his face. Whatever this was, he wanted more of it. More of her.